Hi, I'm Bonnie Hughes. I'm the Communications Officer at Heritage University. I first became involved with WAEF way back at the beginning. I was going to college at Central Washington University when the then executive director, who was the first executive director, came to my public relations club for a presentation. And I was getting ready to graduate from college and knew I was going to stay in the area and was going to need to do something for a job. So I reached out to Sherry and said, hey, how can I help? And from that initial start, I was brought on board as a contractor, and I was doing administrative and PR assistant work. So I was one of the very first employees because I started off as a contractor, and Sherry was a contractor. We were working out of our homes, and I would drive from Ellensburg to Wenatchee once or twice a month in the middle of winter, driving all the way around the long way because you couldn't get over the pass. And from there, the board saw that this was not a model that was going to be sustainable, and they needed to move into something more sustainable where they had employees and employees had benefits and built a really strong foundation so that the organization could grow. So Sherry and I were both brought on as the first full-time regular employees way back in the day, way back in the day. Back when I started, WAEF was pretty much a funding arm of the tree fruit industry. So, we were in our infancy. So there were really two primary areas that we would do funding through scholarships and through grants. And most of the funds that we received in order to then distribute that, most of it came from the Apple Commission. And we had two different committees that were made up of board members that would then review applications that came in for community-based granting and then also for scholarships. And at the time, we were a new organization. So we were doing a lot of fundraising for building the endowment, but also for distributing the funds through the different grants and the scholarships. And then, of course, for paying for the staff, the minimal staff that was there. The events that we did at the time were mostly fundraising events. So we did a couple golf tournaments a year, and we went to the horticultural show and we sold raffle tickets for sprayers and gear for farmers. And those were our big main fundraisers. And of course, we did some annual campaigns and such. But we also worked with, they were then called Dow Chemicals or Dow Elanco. And we worked with them on a children's art project. And it was a competition there were, I believe, 3 different grade levels. So there was the youngsters, basically elementary school, middle school, and high school levels. And that artwork, the winning artwork, was then used on this calendar that it was then Dow Elanco would distribute for free at the Hort Show. So the art competition was called the Year of the Apple. And I believe initially it was having apples as part of the artwork. I think we cut a lot of apples, but I think we did get other fruits that would come in as well. We were really, really new. So the number of scholarships were still pretty small at the time. Like I said, our biggest funder was the Apple Commission and really managing those. And we were doing a lot of work within the tree fruit industry with family farms and industries that support the tree fruit industry to get other scholarship funds that were created with the idea that WAEF would then manage those and really allowing folks that are involved in the industry to be able to give back in a way that was significant and also easy for them because they could get these funds developed and they could direct how they were going to be distributed, but they didn't have to worry about the day-to-day management of that. So when we started, I was there for 2 years. So I went through 2 of the processes. I don't remember how many we had. So I'm now in higher education, and I see how important scholarships are for students. They are critical. I mean, if you have any doubt in your mind about how important they are, just knock that out of your mind because they are critical for these kids. With the number that we would have come in, I would get the applications in and I would go through and organize them and read through them and get the rubrics that was going to be used for the reviewers to assign them. While I wasn't part of the selection, I would read through these things. Sometimes your heart would just stop because you would read these kids' stories and you would think, man, my life is ahead. no struggle whatsoever. It's been easy for me. There was so much heart and hope in these stories that as I would put them together and I would give them off to the committee, I would wait and to see what would come back. Because a lot of times I'd get into them and then the committee would review it over the course of the day or the weekend and would really debate. I wasn't involved in those, but I heard the stories afterwards. They would really debate why they think this person should get that and the other. And then we would get the results back. I believe they were selected, I think there was between 20 or 40 scholarships. And they were in a range, everywhere from a $500 scholarship up to, I think there was one couple $1,000 scholarship. So the committee would select the people who were going to get them and then select the amount that each student would receive. From that, we would generate a letter and send it out to the recipient. Most of the time, I never met any of these people. I never met the students. Occasionally I would. One young man, I cannot remember his name, but I will never forget his story. He wanted to be a doctor, and the root of his desire came from losing his brother, his young brother. When he was a child himself, he had a brother that had some serious health issues, and he passed away one night while sleeping in the same bed he was in. This young man, I think he was probably in elementary school when this happened, maybe middle school. He decided didn't want that ever to happen to anybody else. He was a farm worker child. His parents, I don't believe they were documented. They did not have a high school education, but this young man was going to be a doctor. And he received, our first year, the highest amount awarded. At that time, these students had to reapply. So there wasn't you're getting a full ride scholarship. So the next year he came back and applied for it. And of course, he got the largest amount again. But he would also come to our events, and he would speak at our events, and he would tell his story. And he was so eloquent, and he was so humble, and he was so bright that I knew this kid is going to make it. But I think about him pretty much every year when we start talking about scholarships. Being here at Heritage University, I get so excited when I hear that a student has received a WAEF scholarship, or that I hear representatives from WAEF are going to be on campus, because WAEF's roots are my roots, and in a lot of ways, I relate a lot to the students. I was a first-generation college student. I got my start because of WAEF. I've been able to build a career because of WAEF. My career is in education, which is what WAEF was supporting. And a lot of what I loved about being part of WAEF is what I love about my job here. It's the people. That these students are amazing. They're just amazing people with so much heart and vision and passion, and they're going to go on and do wonderful things. And so when I hear about what WAVE's doing in the community, I'm really proud. I'm proud that I got to be a part of it. You know, my part was tiny, and in the beginning, I feel like I helped with my little bit of skill and my little bit of power that I had. I helped set a foundation that the staff members and the board members and the supporters have just taken and blown up. And I know that what you folks are doing, what WAEF is doing, and the people that support WAEF are doing, I know it has an impact because I see it every day on this campus. I see the students who come here because they have a WAEF scholarship. And I see the students who graduate here, and I hear their stories as alumni and what they're doing out in the community now because they got the WAEF scholarship.